I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? Fear got the best of you.
Is fear getting the best of people? Well, I'm hearing from Robin in Ledbury, where my upcoming show is, and from others that some people, given the UK has gone completely insane and the government has gone totally tyrannical, are considering leaving the country. And we've seen similar in Canada and other countries where people just said, I have enough. I'm getting out of here before it gets worse. Now, that's a risky thing, and we're going to talk about this in Ledbury. We're going to have extensive talks and Q&A and discussions with a big crowd in the barn in Ledbury, and we're going to go through everything and all the reasons for positivity and hope. And unfortunately, if one gives in to fear, one lets the bad guys get away with what they're doing, and that's the worst possible outcome. So all through history, and we're now entering the fourth turning, and this one is particularly fascinating, as I'm sure anyone who's been around since 2020 with eyes open has seen. This is a time where people have to come together, create community, focus on the positive things, and there are many which are happening. And let's be honest, the bad guys, if you will, after the Cerveza sickness scam, they've had a lot of headwinds themselves, and we're going to talk through that. We're going to talk through all of their strategies, how they're going, where all the weaknesses are, and there are many. And I give some examples in this brief video. So for a start, there are millions of clips now shared all across the world in spite of the censorship, and even many on so-called mainstream media, showing the rank hypocrisy and the nonsensical nature of what was foisted on us a few years ago. And that's a huge thing, because we're building antibodies, if you will. We're inoculating a significant minority of the population that's going to make a big difference against ever falling for such rank nonsense again. And this is a major headwind for people who seek to ruin our society. Here's just one brief example. Just look at this turkey.
When people are vaccinated, they can feel safe that they are not going to get infected. I got infected about 2 weeks ago. It was my third infection, and I had been vaccinated and boosted a total of 6 times.
What an absolute farce. And this clip has gone far and wide, and many like it. And even people who are kind of on the fence, who don't want to believe we're being scammed at a colossal scale, when they see material like this, they kind of have to wake up a bit, and then you grow the sizable minority who is going to form a bulwark against the nonsense next time. Another quick example is the farce that is Mpox or monkeypox. Now, this is being ridiculed widely, and in 2022, if you recall, in the summer, they came out with this monkeypox nonsense, and it was rejected. And then they admitted they were changing the name because it was being ridiculed. And I think they gave an excuse around racism as well. So these people have no depths which they won't plumb. But the whole thing fell into a shambles, even though the head of the WHO, that guy, he actually overruled the Technical Council and insisted that it be a public health emergency of international concern. But it still fell flat on its face, and it just shows you the degree of awakening that had already occurred in 22. Have a look at this brief clip, one of myriad that's coming out now as they try to relaunch this ridiculous risible nonsense.
But after getting into this bloody monkeypox now, well, poxed isn't the word. So you wouldn't know I had it really, only a bit of a tickle in the back of the throat and a bit burny behind the eyes. But I went to the doctor anyway, just to be sure. And he put me on an antibiotic and told me just to stick with that for a few days. And if there's no change, just come back to him on Monday.
That's about the length of it, folks. And ridicule is really important, and satire. So that still doesn't really get censored. So people need to make countless memes and short videos of this nature for all of the absurd strategies of the globalists. And that's all part of fighting back. And actually, the bought and paid for media are showing themselves up. They're where even normies, if you will, are beginning to wonder what the hell is going on. Look at this one with the pictures. They haven't got any new pictures at all when it's a public health emergency of international concern. Come on, These guys are showing themselves up with their absurdity. But back to the event in Ledbury. Very briefly, top right, I'm going to go through achieving great health, longevity, all of the really core advice that's quite easy to follow. That'll boost your resilience because we are in a fourth turning and you need to be strong physically and mentally. So mental strength will be another theme we'll go through with examples. Geopolitical realities, of course, I'll cover the latest on what's actually going on and the root cause revealed. So I'll go through all the strategies that are playing out, confusing many people, including the mass migration and many other sinister pushes from the top. And here, Hodl Kamikaze redid my root cause diagram. So I'm going to be using that and bringing you through it. And you'll fully understand all of the different vectors, how they're being done, and most importantly, how to push back peacefully and powerfully with community against this. Because it is a time like no other where we all have to stand together. And peacefully is very important. It's all about logic, reasoning, calmness, and getting that inner strength as part of community, like Homo sapiens have achieved for millions of years. Back to just some of the topics, solutions shared. This is all about solutions. It's not about negativity. We acknowledge reality, and we'll do that right throughout the talk and the Q&A. We don't hide from reality. That would be ridiculous. But we talk around solutions and what we need to do. Stoicism, I will explain briefly. It's an extremely important philosophy that can change your life, and it's very appropriate for this fourth turning. And building communities. So I'm going to give some examples of that, and it's something we all have to strive for more and more in the coming few years, which will be quite challenging. But hope for the future. That's a big part of the theme. And I am extremely hopeful, even though I'm extremely cynical. A corporate background, I'm under no illusions, but I really am very hopeful, and I'll articulate that and why, and we'll have Q&A on that too. And people can raise their concerns, highlight them, and let's talk through it as a community. But most importantly, bottom right, it's all to play for. It is not a time to give in to fear and to run from the challenge. It is a time to band together, to grow the tribes, and to achieve, finally, a return to autonomy, freedom, and Western democratic values. Actually, I'll show another brief clip from V for Vendetta, super movie, and it just kind of shows what we have to do. So what do we have to do?
To remind the world that fairness, justice, and freedom are more than words. They are perspectives.
Well said, Mr. V. We have to get back autonomy, freedom, democracy, if you will. You know, this is an imperative. And by peacefully coming together, growing communities, explaining calmly to others who are maybe not as aware what is actually going on in the world, and always refer to fully published sources, stay reasonable and calm. Wild-eyed people don't convince anyone. Something you saw on Facebook will just be laughed at. So we have vast amounts of published material and documents from EU, UN, Rockefeller Foundation, all laying out what's happening and why, and we refer to those, and we stay calm, stay focused, and keep the dander up. And now for one last clip from that superb movie. So a slightly somber note. Don't mean to be negative here, but it's something worth thinking about.
But again, truth be told, if you're looking for the guilty, you need only look into a mirror.
A great line. And again, not to be negative, but the reality is it's all to play for all of us to come together, and we really can't blame anyone else. That's the reality if things don't work out the way they ought to. You know, it is not a time to cut and run, I believe. It's a time to build on what we have achieved in the few years since the Cerveza sickness. all the positive things in the world that are happening, the awareness that is growing. We've got the World Health Regulations and Pandemic Treaty effectively stalled. There were demonstrations even in Japan with thousands of people. And they're not usually the guys to have street demonstrations about international organizations like the WHO and fighting against tyranny, are they? But there are so many examples of where the pushback is being rather effective, and at the risk of redundancy, guys, it's all to play for. So that'll do it, folks. I really enjoyed this little chat with you. I hope you did too. And as I said, Ledbury on the 29th, it's Thursday. And possibly we'll have a second event on the 30th, not fully tied down yet, but the email is on the screen, and just send an email there expressing your interest and have a chat by all means, just so we can firm up on numbers and get the venue sorted and just a little planning ahead. So thanks so much, folks, and hope to see you there.